There is a legend of our forest that a bonfire can appear among the tree trunks at night. The old-timers say that under no circumstances should you approach this bonfire. If you do approach it, there will be a person sitting there. You must not talk to him in any way, or else you will stay there forever. As a person who doesn't believe in tales and ghost stories, I ventured into the forest. I also took a basket with me, hoping to gather something useful along the way, like berries or mushrooms. I wandered through the vast forest for a long time and got lost in the process. My legs were aching and it was getting dark. Fortunately, my basket was already filled with various edible items, such as mushrooms and berries. I decided to spend the night there and find my bearings in the morning. But for now, I needed to find a place to spend the night. While searching, I noticed a faint light among the trees not far away. I decided to go towards it, thinking it might be some other mushroom pickers or campers who, like me, planned to spend the night in the forest. It would be more enjoyable to spend the night in good company. And then, like an arrow, the thought struck me. Could it be the same bonfire the old folks talked about? My heart started pounding, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Oh, come on, I thought, trying to dismiss the idea. It can't be true. People make up stories and then scare themselves and others with them. I slowly approached the bonfire. As I got closer, I noticed a person sitting beside it. He was completely covered by a long, dark cloak, and his face was hidden under the hood. The person didn't even glance in my direction. His gaze was fixed solely on the fire. "Hello, I got lost here," I said, trying to break the silence. "Can you please tell me the direction to the highway?" At that moment, the man seemed to be struck by something. He abruptly turned his head towards me. Under the hood, I saw the face of a middle-aged man. His surprised expression turned into a smile, and tears welled up in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered softly. "I'm free." He slowly stood up from the ground. "What's he talking about?" I thought. "Now it's your burden," he said to me. Patting me on the shoulder, he walked off into the depths of the forest. "What do you mean by your burden?" I shouted after him. But he ignored all my questions and disappeared into the forest darkness. For some time I stood there in shock, gathering my basket, and then walked away from that place. The same bonfire appeared before me again. Strange. Was it a second bonfire? I thought I only saw one before. Maybe someone else settled here while I was talking to that man. "Is anyone here?" I shouted. Only my echo responded. "Something strange is happening," I said to myself. As I continued forward, the place I left behind disappeared, and I found myself back at the fire. Is this the same bonfire again? I nervously wondered. But I was certain I left it behind. Why are there so many now? I left my belongings by yet another flame and ran as fast as I could. 5th, 6th. What's going on? I kept repeating to myself. But where are they all coming from? No others were around. Leaving my belongings once more by the next fire, I ran with all my strength. Fear enveloped me and breathing became difficult. Forest, trees, bushes, and behind the bushes a bonfire. My belongings lay nearby. What's happening? I left them behind, didn't I? And then a thought struck me and I fell to the ground. Is it possible that it's the same bonfire? Did that man speak about this burden? I refused to believe it. Common sense left me. I crawled, stumbled, fell, and crawled again, returning each time to the bonfire. My eyes filled with tears. Covered in bruises and cuts, I kept going in different directions, but always ended up in the same place. Forest, trees, bushes, bonfire. Losing all hope, I collapsed on the ground. How much time had passed? Why is it still dark? And the fire innocently kept burning. No escape, can't leave, echoed in my mind. I lay there on the ground, feeling cold despite the fire nearby. Please let this be a dream. When I woke up, I found myself still lying next to the flame. It was dark all around, with no souls in sight. Just the forest, trees, bushes, and the bonfire. I half leaned against a tree. My basket was lying upside down, and its contents were scattered on the ground. People are his energy, I heard. It's his curse. It can be undone only by another person. Need to talk to the enchanted one. I saw images of other travelers who were desperately trying to escape just like me. The endless cycle of events kept spinning in my head. It was cold and lonely. Whenever I had the strength, I shouted and called for help, but in response there was only the echo. I no longer cared when someone approached. I had accepted my fate, but then I heard, "Hello, can you tell me how to get to the highway?" Once there was a boy who lived with his mom, dad, and little sister. Dad sometimes told stories that his ancestors were nomads who once lived in the desert. Grandfather could even tell you how to find water in the sands and take care of a camel. "Remember Grandfather?" Dad asked. "We visited him once." "I don't remember," the boy replied. But in reality, the boy remembered the old man well. He looked like a dangerous predatory bird, and his eyes were like two pieces of dark ice. The boy was so scared then that he wanted to run away, but his legs froze like stone and he couldn't move. Grandfather burst into loud laughter and said that such a child would never survive in the desert. He didn't pay any more attention to the boy after that. On the other hand, the grandmother turned out to be very kind. She led the boy to the kitchen, treated him with some sweets, and gave him a talisman, a small bag with a stork embroidered on it. "Don't show it to anyone," the grandmother warned. "Not even to Mom and Dad. Otherwise it will stop working." "What's inside?" the boy asked his grandmother, trying to feel with his fingers what was inside the bag. "Chalk and ash," the grandmother replied. Then she told the boy a tale about ancient desert demons that sneaked up on sleeping people in the dark, strangled them, and drank all their blood. When they found these people in the morning, they looked like dried-up mummies, the grandmother said. Then the grandmother told the boy how the desert dwellers tricked the demons. They took small round stones, sprinkled them with white chalk, and drew black dots with ash on them to make the stones look like eyes. Human eyes are a delicacy for desert demons, just like sweets are for you. But after eating the stones, the desert demons couldn't fly, and people could catch and kill them. "Can demons be killed?" the boy asked. "For a short time," the grandmother replied. "People will live 3 lifetimes during that time." The boy didn't really believe in fairy tales, but he enjoyed his grandmother's story. And the talisman, though he later lost it somewhere. The boy never saw his grandfather again. Later, someone called his dad and said that the grandfather was dying. The boy's dad went to see him, but that night, the boy had a dream. Suddenly, he found himself in the desert, and a demon was chasing him. Of course, the boy couldn't see the demon himself, but he felt as if someone's invisible eyes, cold as ice, were watching him. The boy ran for a long time, but when he fell exhausted into the sand, he still felt the demon's gaze. The boy wanted to cry, but under the scorching sun, his tears dried up before they could appear. Human eyes are a delicacy for desert demons. Suddenly, the boy seemed to hear his grandmother's voice, and as often happens in dreams, he suddenly realized that he had been holding the talisman, the bag with the stork embroidered on it, all the time. The bag was stitched shut, but when the boy pulled harder, the threads at the top of the bag broke. There were 2 compartments in the bag. One was filled with white chalk dust, the other with black ash. Among the sand, the boy found many small round stones. He sprinkled the stones with white chalk and drew black dots with ash to make them look like eyes. Then he arranged the stones into a pyramid and lay down beside them, closing his eyes. He was so tired that he almost fell asleep, but he was too scared and couldn't sleep. Squinting his eyes, the boy lay on the hot sand and heard the wind humming and the sand crumbling. The boy tried to remember at least one prayer, but he couldn't recall any. He tried to recall his home, Mom, and Dad, but he couldn't remember anything, as if all his memories were covered with sand. And then something touched him, and with a scream, the boy jumped to his feet. "Hush," said the person standing in front of him. "It's all over now." They were not very tall and were wrapped in rags, even their face. Only their eyes were visible. Their penetrating gaze carefully studied the boy. "You acted correctly and impeccably," the person said, and even through their hoarse voice, the boy couldn't determine whether it was a man or a woman, a child or an elder. "Sometimes they become so strong that they can live in a human body," the stranger continued. "And when one body dies, they move into another, preferably into their human descendants' bodies. It makes it easier for them. They are not easy to catch since they are vulnerable only at the moment of transition from one body to another." The person took a step forward and handed the boy a strange round object. "This is a dried gourd," the person said. "The desert people used to carry water in it." The boy took the gourd. "You are a worthy descendant of the desert people. When you truly die, we will meet you here and bury your bones in the sand. But your great-grandchildren will have to meet them again, and you will be waiting for them here to help." The person turned their back and walked away. When the boy woke up, he was holding a dried gourd in his hand, and his bed was filled with dry yellow sand. And only then did the boy realize that the gaze of the invisible desert demon that chased him reminded him of his grandfather's gaze.